So guys, I won a Ferrari at the salvage auction for a ridiculously cheap price, and I'm on the way right now to meet the delivery driver who has it on his truck. I'm so excited because this is the Ferrari that I grew up wanting, and I've wanted it forever, and I bought it for next to nothing, but at the same time, I'm extremely nervous because this is a car that was listed with undercarriage and mechanical damage. The auction photos are much like my R8 that had the frame crack in it. Basically, it looks like it's a perfect car just sitting at an auction lot. There's not one photo that depicts anything negative with this car. Since we can't see the undercarriage in the photos, buying this car is the equivalent of going to Vegas and putting your money on red. It's a total gamble. So again, it says it has mechanical and undercarriage damage. It also says that the car runs, but it does not drive. This could just mean so many different scenarios, but let's break it down really quick. Undercarriage likely means a car rode up over something, and if it runs, but it does not drive, so it doesn't move under its own power forward or backward, it could have mangled the transmission, what sits in the rear end of this car, really low to the ground. An easier scenario would be that it took out one of the axle half shafts or a suspension component that would stop the car from rolling and keeping it from moving under its own power. The best case scenario, at least in my opinion, would be that it just dented some part of the undercarriage. You know, a lot of these sports cars are made of aluminum, and an aluminum section of the undercarriage typically doesn't have an approved repair method from most manufacturers. Pair this with the fact that the car has an F1 transmission, which is a real manual transmission. I mean, it has a clutch, but it is actuated automatically with electronics. It's very possible the guy at the auction just couldn't figure out how to actually get it into gear. All right, I'll keep dreaming about that possibility, but we're going to find out very soon. We just have to make one quick stop before we take delivery of this Ferrari. Just going to run into the auto parts store here and pick up a quick battery for the Ferrari. Now, every single time I get a car delivered from the salvage auction, you can almost guarantee that the battery is going to be dead. And on a car like a Ferrari, which has a very finicky electrical system, I'm not going to take any chances. I think it'd be best off starting with a fresh battery. Now, I don't just walk into the auto parts store, pick a battery off the shelf and pay for it at the counter. This is a rebuild project, and we got to keep a tight budget on it. So I ordered this battery for in-store pickup so that I could use Honey, which is like my secret weapon for saving money when I'm shopping online. All I did was hop on the auto parts store website, find the exact battery that we need for this car, add it to my cart, and when you're going through the checkout, the dancing coin guy always makes the magic happen. Hit apply coupons, and Honey searches the internet for the best coupon codes to apply to your order, assuring you the best deal on whatever you're buying. And bam, it's as easy as that. We got $46 off. And Honey's not just for auto parts, it works on the internet's best online shops like Amazon and eBay. It even works on travel sites and restaurants. I do pretty much all my shopping online, so I really love Honey. It saves me at least a few $100 a month, and you don't just have to take my word for it. These are real comments from viewers of my channel that also enjoy using Honey. And did you know that people that have downloaded Honey using my links in the past save on average of about $33 while shopping online? Now, it's very simple to install. It just takes 2 clicks, and I want you to do that right now by clicking the link in the description box below or visiting joinhoney.com/samcrack. It's totally free and really awesome. And I want to thank Honey for not only saving me a good chunk of money on this battery, but for their continued sponsorship of the channel. Dark. All right, where that yellow tape is right there, that's got to be the majority of the damage. And if that's the case, then we just stole this car. It just looks like it's dented up a bit, and there's a few cracks in the aluminum. There's a handful of scratches on the passenger side here, so this car probably just ran over something. Man, I'm so excited. This looks like such a deal, but it still doesn't explain why this car doesn't drive. It'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to just drive it off of this truck. Lighting up. You can see lights coming on in there. Uh-oh, it's hitting the bumper. It's grabbing the front. Here, can I jump on your truck? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Para atrás.
There it is.
Dale, dale.
Think you might have lucked out, my friend.
I think so.
Aquí también ya. Dale, todo para allá, para tu lado. Ahí en derecha. A la derecha. Ahí, perfecto, dale.
Me tienes que decir derecha, izquierda, derecha, izquierda.
Te vas a pensar que para el lado de la comunidad. Izquierda un poquito. Ahí derecha, derecha. Perfecto. Ahí va.
All right.
You gonna drive it in there?
Yeah, I mean, will it go?
Yeah, it goes perfectly. So, you know, the paddles are right here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they couldn't figure out. They were trying to do forward, or they were trying to do reverse here.
So if you
Revert, this is only for reverse. You probably have to hit it a couple times before it clicks in. And then,
it goes into gear, man.
yeah, it works. And then neutral to turn it.
Yeah,
you wanna
okay.
Turn it off, you
Yeah.
do both paddles. But then you just go right here, and then.
All right, go ahead, bring her in. Yeah. Ran out of daylight last night, so it's the next day. Haven't touched this car since it was parked. Haven't even thrown in the new battery yet. We're going to do that in a minute. You can see the car still gross, dirty. It's got these love bugs all over the front. If you're not from the South, you don't know about love bugs. They will eat your paint if you don't remove them immediately. So we're going to remove them right here in the garage. I'm not even going to pull the car outside. All right, it's looking a lot better, but this car is still pretty dingy. Before we roll it out to wash it, we've got to put that battery in, but I also want to do one quick thing and remove this headlight tint. It just looks silly. So I brought a clothing steamer that's really good to remove any sort of tint. It softens the glue that holds the tint in place. It's safe for paint and makes the job really easy. Before we start any sort of work on the Ferrari, we definitely want to get in here, pull that old dead battery out and replace it with the one we picked up from the auto parts store. It's just like any other battery, 10 millimeter, and it's tucked right underneath here in the passenger side footwell. So I'm gonna kind of snake my way in here underneath this glove box that does not want to close. We'll figure that out at another time and get the battery out. I am dying to drive this car, but before we do, we definitely have to inspect our suspension here on the passenger side. A lot of times when you ride up over a curb, you'll damage your wheels, you will bend control arms, tie rods. You can see that this tire is all the way flat here. So let's jack the Ferrari up in the air and let's check out what's going on in our suspension. I did a quick look. We'll get a little bit more in depth, but overall pretty good news so far. Let's start with our rear wheel. You can see it was bent pretty severely up top here. The insurance company marked that with some yellow marker there. Now these seem to be some sort of aftermarket wheel brand that has no name, and they don't look to be the best, and they honestly have a little bit of a
cheesy look in my opinion. Let's check out our front wheel here really quick. This one looked pretty good, but as you can see right up top, it was bent as well. Now, whether that threw this out of balance or not, I bet it probably did, but we'll have to check. If it didn't, I would run with the tire and wheel like this just for the time being. I'm hoping to replace these with a more factory-like set. Now, let's check out what we got going on in the suspension area. Checking out the front side of our suspension here, I am darn surprised. Look at the lower control arm. Looks perfect, no cracks. And even that sway bar end link, that tiny little link there, those break all the time, nothing. Our tie rod looks good, our upper control arm. So for our front, we really lucked out. There's nothing there that looks like it needs to be replaced. Our rear suspension has pretty much the same story. Upper control arm, perfect. We get down here. Our lower control arm is really good. Check out this sway bar end link. Again, these things usually bend so easily. Our subframe has no cracks. That's another huge win. The link back here looks perfect. This side of the lower control arm, again, no issues. It's amazing to think our wheels and tires are really what took the brunt of the damage here.
Now, it was much easier to see all this while we were getting the car off the transport truck, but we'll start with the rocker. You could see it is heavily scuffed, and these rockers are made out of fiberglass. So when fiberglass scratches like this, you can see some chunks taken out of it. You can see the roughness. It's really super hard. The major reason this car was totaled is right here. This is the passenger side floorboard, and you can see it was dented in pretty nice. So this car likely rode up over a curb, cracking a little bit of the aluminum structure here and just tearing up the rest of the underside, whether it's up there in the front bumper or like I just showed you, the rocker. But it's this sort of undercarriage damage that makes this a huge reward that was worth the risk. We're going to take care of this filthy interior in just a moment, but if you check out the floorboard, you can't even tell really that it was pushed up right here. Now, if you do move your hand around, you can feel a few wrinkles right here in the metal. So the game plan for this would be just to pull up all the carpets, take this seat out here, and then on the underside, there's probably going to be some undercoating. We'll remove that, and we're going to hammer this back down and weld up any remaining cracks. First up on the agenda, we got to get a set of replacement wheels. Besides these ones being damaged, they're super bulky. When I took them off the cart, they don't look very good in my opinion, and they would need reconditioning anyway. So I'm going to look for a stock set, and then we got to take the interior apart so that we could get things ready for our weld repair. Now, I have had a little bit more of a look around this car than I've shown you so far, and there are a handful of other things that definitely need some attention. This is not a cream puff car, and I want to show you those things, but this car is filthy. We got to take it outside. We got to really get the entire outside washed and really clean up the interior. That will give us a better idea of what we're dealing with and how much this project might end up costing us. This car has a very weird immobilizer system. You have this basic looking 1980s electric key fob, and then you have this short key, and as far as I know, you have to start the car within a short period of time of unlocking it. So I just did it there, unlocked it. Let's grab these keys, figure out how they go in the ignition, because that's another strange thing. Kind of goes in sideways, foot on the brake. A little rough, Ooh, that did not sound good. All right, let's try this again. Foot on the brake. No way. That does not sound good. I thought the Ferrari ownership experience was supposed to be one full of fun and delight, but I'm pretty terrified right now. That sounded awful. It sounded a whole lot like rod knock. And this car ran fine just, a day ago when it was delivered. It hasn't been moved since, but let me tell you exactly what I did. Right here is the oil reservoir, and I lifted up, and the dipstick did look dry after I heard it running rough that first time. Got a few jugs of Mobil 1 over here, so I put a little bit of one jug in. It still didn't touch the dipstick, so I put most of the rest of the jug in, and I saw just a little bit here on the dipstick. So I started it again. Definitely sounded better. This time it sounded more like it was missing than it was knocking, and I noticed, can you see that oil down there? And then if you get underneath the car, check this out, huge oil spots. Then I popped open the air intakes here, and there is a pool of oil. So I'll be the first to admit, I overfilled this thing. The dipstick just was not a good indicator. You can see the air filters here are in really crummy shape. These are aftermarket ones. The rubber's breaking off. So we got to figure out what's going on. First of all, we got to get this oil level set right. Second of all, we got to clean out what's in these intakes here. Make sure there's no loose pieces. I just saw one fall down in the engine bay. And third, we got to pull those MAFs off, and we got to clean them, because if there's oil on the MAFs, that would definitely cause this car to run funny. And then we'll give it another shot. At my Ferrari workshop, we only use the finest of kitty litters. Now, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the engine bay here, a lot of stuff disassembled. I didn't imagine this car this far disassembled, this quick into the rebuild, but here we are. Let's start off with where the air intake covers go right here. Look at the gasket material from our expensive aftermarket high flow air filters. This is gross. This is ridiculous. And these are $100 a piece. The Ferrari ones are only $40 a piece, only $40, which is still pretty expensive. I will be replacing it with an OEM style one because this is just unacceptable. We're gonna clean this up, make sure none of it gets anywhere in this area, because that's the last thing we need being sucked into the engine. Now we've got the MAF tube here connected to the throttle body tube, and then the throttle body into the intake manifold. Now our main issue in the engine bay still, and you're not going to be able to see it, inside the intake manifold there is a little bit of a pool of oil. Now I tried taking the top off the intake manifold here. It separates the red part from the silver part. There's just screws all around. The problem is the screws all the way back there are just near impossible to get to with the tools that I currently have. It would make things easier to soak it up, but we've got a cheater method. I'm gonna get an oil extractor pump. I'm gonna run it all the way into the back and suck the oil out through that. And I'm gonna hope that will clean it out. The last thing we need to check for oil-wise is the spark plugs, and I was able to pull one of those out. Let's see if we can get it to focus here. And we lucked out. There's no oil on this spark plug. Doesn't mean that there's not any oil on any of the other ones. However, it's a good sign, and one that I will take enough to try and start this car after we suck out the oil again from the intake manifold and we drop the remaining oil left in the car. So let's go, let's drop the oil, then I'll run and grab my pump. We'll reassemble everything. Let's cross our fingers and hope our Ferrari engine isn't destroyed. Gosh darn it. There it goes. Something stuck up in there. What in the hell is this? Look at this. Holy sh**. This is what I just pulled out of the drain hole on the Ferrari. This looks like a piece of aluminum seal like they put on top of oil containers. I can't even believe this. Someone's so careless that they dumped oil in and just dumped that in with it. That's crazy.
There's only one last thing to do before we can start this car, and that is to fill it back up with clean oil. I'm gonna put in about 7 to 8 quarts to start. The capacity of this car is a little bit over 10, but 7 or 8 should get things filled, should move them around a little bit since it is a dry sump. Then we're gonna find out whether that was a misfire or whether we've got rod knock. This is the moment of truth.